The right to offend is not some pesky little part of freedom of speech that we have to put up with. It is the heart and soul and lungs of freedom of speech. It is the coursing lifeblood of human progress. It is the instigator of liberty and modernity and science and understanding. What a laughing stock today's student leaders are, that they can so casually dismiss the right to be offensive without realizing that their lovely, enlightened lives are the gift of individuals who gave offense. Offensiveness is not just something we have to begrudgingly accept. Offensiveness is the motor of human progress.
Now broadcasting from the Right to Offend Media Studios in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, art, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report Live with Sam Whitfield.
But giving offense is good. In fact, it's essential.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's Monday edition of the Whitfield Report. I'm your host, Sam Whitfield, recording here at Right to Offend Media Studio, and my guest today is Mr. Joe Rivers, commonly known as Joe's Atmosphere, out there on YouTube and the web, and I've been on Joe's, well, he has a couple of shows, and I've been on a few of them a couple of times. But Joe is he's a streamer, a podcaster, and a comic book artist and author. And we've had, we mostly have indie thrill authors, and we've had a few indie comic book creators, but Joe is someone who I've known for a while, so figured it was time to invite him on the show. So Joe, welcome to the Whitfield Report, sir. How are you?
Thanks a lot, man. I'm a big fan of the show, and I appreciate you having me, man, for sure.
I appreciate you coming on, especially the last few months have been a bit morbid and whatnot, kind of with the whole unfortunately, the whole Charlie Kirk thing has kind of overshadowed a lot of the internet.
Yeah,
So
it has, and I understand a lot of people covering that stuff, but me, the only show I have that I cover that kind of thing on is the one that me and my brother do on Sundays. It's called
yeah,
The Brothers Hack the Matrix, and we do that's the show I work the hardest on, Sam. I put together about 40 articles for an hour and a half show, and we just zip through them. All we do is read the headlines, maybe a couple of bullet points in there, and me and my brother comment on them. You know what I mean?
yeah.
We got different sections for sports and all that stuff. That's the only place we really talk about stuff like that on my channel. So, but yeah, it's been a strange ride the last few weeks, hasn't it? It really has been.
Yeah, it's certainly been interesting, man. But so just kind of starting off, kind of what's just your general background? How did you I know you're big into, kind of the whole, geek. It's not really been a subculture anymore. It's kind
No,
of,
no.
taken over, but you it certainly was. So kind of, I guess, what is Joe's origin story to
Foundation in the geek sphere, right?
yeah.
Well, I just turned 60 this summer, and I was a geek when it wasn't cool to be a geek, when you got beat up for it. Growing up, I was 12 years old when Star Wars came out. I saw Jaws in the theater when it first came out. I saw some great stuff in the 70s, and uh, my brother and I used to run home to watch Captain Kirk every afternoon. It was in syndication when we were kids, and so I don't know if you know the history of cons and all that stuff, but it was the Star Trek fans that started all that stuff, the
Yep.
guys that wanted to bring that show back. And so I saw all of this stuff, and I dig video games. I grew up with video games. I remember my first Pong set, and now I've got a PS5 and a Xbox Series X sitting right next to me right here where I'm sitting. So,
Yeah,
I've loved video games my whole life. I've loved comic books. I was a Spider-Man geek when I was a kid. My brother was a Hulk guy, and we knew all the Marvel lore and stuff. So, yeah, I have a deep, 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 deep uh, love for sci-fi, for comic books, a little bit of anime, not as much. I mean, anime's really blown up now, but when I was a kid, it was Speed Racer, and I do remember watching Star Blazers. I loved that show when I was a kid
yeah,
with the Black Tiger Squadron and everything. Yeah, I do remember that one. Battle of the Planets was big too. G-Force, that bunch.
yeah.
So yeah,
I
that's what
was
I
never
kind of think.
really I was never really into anime myself. I grew up, kind of more in the 90s and, early 2000s and
You're an X-Men kid. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
I'm of that generation. And it's funny because like I'm kind of the generation where like, like as you said, it wasn't really cool to be, a nerd when you were a kid. And, even when I was, in high school, it was still kind of uncool to, you know, be a nerd. And then like around like my freshman year of high school, like that's kind of when the MCU first
That's it.
started. And
When the comic book movies started popping off, that's when it really relaxed, and people said, "Yeah, I've been doing this, reading this stuff for years, and I just didn't talk about
yeah.
it." Stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, and like it, on the one hand, it's great that nerd culture is more accepted, but
Hmm.
on the other hand, there is kind of the flip side now of you have these activist types now who aren't interested in really the subculture at all. They just want to insert their agendas and whatnot into
Right.
stuff too, and
Right.
that's kind
Hmm.
of that's kind of
Yeah,
how
that's
we've all
it's really
met.
the comic book industry, that's for sure. That
Yeah,
that has really destroyed the American comic book industry. That's for sure. That's why anime's taken over as far as people buying new stuff in that genre. The paper, uh, visual entertainment. Anime is kicking Western comics ass right now, and
yeah,
it's because the kind of thing you're talking about. They just they they've made this stuff for people that would never buy the books, first of all.
yeah.
And and it's really turned off people like you and me that would have collected all that stuff.
Well,
you know
the
i
other
i, I collect Spider-Man right now just to support my local comic book shop. I don't even read them, Sam. I buy them, I pick them up, and I put them in a box. That's what I do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're lucky that you still have a comic shop too.
Right. We've only got one in town. We used to have a few, and one left. And
Yeah,
most of his business is toys. It's sports memorabilia. It's statues and stuff. It's physical stuff that you can buy that's not comic books. You know what I
yeah,
mean? He's got an entire row of nothing but Funko Pops. You know what I mean? He's had to adapt his business. And his name's Chris. He owns Excalibur comic books and comics, cards, and games is the name of it here in Shreveport, Louisiana. And he's a great guy. And he's really adapted well with the business. He really has. He's got a lot more role playing stuff in there now. With a lot more people are playing Dungeons and Dragons now, so he's got a lot more tabletop stuff in there for people to buy. And yeah, but
yeah,
yeah, you're right. I am lucky. I do have a comic book shop with somebody. A guy I went to high school with is behind the desk back there. My buddy Mark. Shout out to Mark Peck. Good to
yeah.
if you're watching, man. So yeah, it's
Well,
good to have.
it's funny because I'm originally, I don't know if you know this, I live in Florida now, but I grew up in Colorado, and
No, I didn't know that. Oh,
famously Mile High Comics is, that was like one of the big, kind of comic book chains out west. And I used to go in there every, Saturday with my, parents and get
Mm-hmm.
comic books. And I remember uh you know I remember talking to the owner in like 2007, and I remember initially like he was hoping that the whole comic book movie thing would kind of get more people to come into
Right.
comic book stores. And then, I guess kind of the whole irony of, the MCU and DC and all these big, movie, you know, uh, franchises now is, the two big studios at least seem more interested in like, you know, in making comic book movies as opposed to making comic books themselves. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, getting people into comic book stores, which is kind of like a sad irony almost.
Yeah, the comic books are more of an advertisement for their movies now, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's basically the way it is, and that, look, the sooner they figure out that this is where all the stuff came from, let guys that love the stuff go back to making it, But look, I think it was what's her name? Is it Justine Bateman? Is that her name? She gave an interview not too long ago, and I think she hit it right on the mark. The future of this stuff is these people are going to these bigger things like Amazon and Apple and Disney. They bought Marvel, right? And they're scooping up all of this stuff just to support their other products. It's advertising for their other products. Clear example. Have you seen the newest War of the Worlds on Prime? Have you
No, I
seen
have
or heard
not.
of this?
Yeah.
Okay. From what I understand, I have not watched it, but everybody that I've talked to that has seen it said, don't waste your time. It is just a 2-hour advertisement for Prime. They actually have stuff to save the world delivered by Prime.
Oh, of course they do.
I
And
cracked up when I heard that. I was like, oh my God. But she had said during this interview that that's what they're doing with these things. They're the reason why they're letting you get, these free offers for their streaming services and stuff is to get you on board with buying stuff from their other products. You know what I mean? The Apple phones, the deliveries
yeah.
that Prime does, that kind of thing. So
What?
let's hope that
Yeah.
they actually let somebody that loves this stuff get back to making it. We've seen some examples of it. Picard season 3 that's the only good thing that's come out of Paramount, really, since they started their streaming service here recently. And even that was just jangling keys, which was exactly what the Deadpool and Wolverine movie was too. But people loved it because it it takes us back to what we loved as younger people. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and
yep.
it's funny you say that with Paramount, because like we have like a Paramount, we have like one of those, Walmart like
Hmm.
memberships. And
Right.
you get Paramount Plus, bundled with that. So I mean that's how we have it too. And I don't and I know
And
lots of
you're
people in that
using the app
situation.
to buy things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's working just the way they want it to. Yeah.
But I kind of made the point to my mom. I'm like, I don't think people would really like, have I don't think people would really like subscribe to Paramount if it wasn't already like included.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know,
I
either.
would. I would. Now, as far as the streaming wars goes, if you put a gun to my head and said I had to get one streaming service, it would be Paramount because they're putting out the Taylor Sheridan verse, and as far as I'm concerned, he's putting out the best stuff in streaming right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
I I,
that's who I would get.
I will
We've got it
say,
through Prime. It's cheaper through Prime. My wife is a Prime nut, so that's where we've got it through. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I actually, speaking of Prime though, like as far as, like I know that Amazon Prime does have like some, woke stuff too, but like they've got two of, Jack Carr's, his book series has been adapted, The Terminalist and
Hmm.
kind
Hmm.
of the spin-off, and that's been really good. But
Reacher's been great as far as I'm
yeah,
concerned. I loved Reacher, and yeah, they're a mixed bag. You, you've got the Rings of Power, which is just horrible. It is
yeah.
just I didn't even watch the second season of it. I hear they're working on the third. They're supposed to make 5 seasons of this thing. I'm like, oh god. But yeah, I like you. I just got done with what's the prequel they did with Taylor Kitsch? I just
Uh,
got done with that one.
yeah,
Something Wolf,
Terminalist, yeah, Dark Wolf.
Dark Wolf, yeah. And see, now I want to see another prequel. I want to see his Aussie buddy. A
Well,
prequel with him. You know what I mean? That was a great show. I
well,
loved it.
so I'm a big fan of Jack Carr, like as an author, and
Mm-hmm.
like I've read all of his books. I've had him on the show, but I've had people kind of in that same vein of like throw authors on the show, and the book that he put out this year, Cry Havoc, is actually about James Reese's dad, who was uh, a Vietnam veteran and was part of
Nice.
the, McAfee SOG. And not a lot of thrillers about the Vietnam War are out
No,
there. So,
no. But there should
that
be,
was
man. There should
interesting.
be. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually writing, a Cold War thriller myself, right now. So,
That's cool, man. That's
but
cool. Yeah, I know you're an author. I got to get your book. I haven't gotten it yet, but I've got to get it. I want to check that out, man, for
yeah,
sure. Because I met uh through Jed, our mutual buddy. I met a few people. One being Matt from Small Time Republic, who's from southern Alabama. Another one was Wes from the Whatever Cast. That guy, love Wes to death, and he does one called Conspiracy Chronicles. He works on that's really cool. So yeah, I
yeah,
dig what you guys are doing, man. I really do. I got to check that out. It's just I'm so busy with other stuff, man. I this time
I
of
know.
year. This time of
Yeah.
year, I have commissions. You see my drawing board behind me. I do pencil sketch portraits for people, and I've got a few that I've got to get out, and I got that. I got the comic book going. I've got my YouTube channel. I got 4 shows a week I do on there, and I'm on other channels just like you. I'm on your channel. I'm on uh, Gary from Pop Culture Mindfield's channel. I'm on That 70s Rock Fans channel. So I'm just juggling all the time, man. I don't have enough hours in a day in a good way, you know? Yeah.
None of us do.
No.
I've been on other shows, too lately because I have friends who worked for Charlie Kirk. I only met him once, but like I kind of had like, you know, I wouldn't say like I was like a huge like, turning point insider, but like, so I've been doing lots of, interviews about that lately,
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Didn't know
So
anything about his organization at all. I really didn't know any of the lore until he passed away. That's when I found out about it, you know? It
yeah,
sounds like a great thing. It really does.
yeah, it's in the look. I mean, so the weird thing with that was like, you know, like Charlie Kirk was obviously, a very notable like public figure, but when I met him, he was just, still he was just still, I kind of, when I met him via Skype at first, he was still kind of like an unknown.
Hmm.
He was
Yeah.
just, he was just a normal guy. And so, you
Yeah.
know, obviously what he was doing for free speech and whatnot, tremendous. But like, to me, just the guy I met who was just, a really kind and genuine guy. that guy was
Mm-hmm.
also, murdered. And it's just,
Mm-hmm.
the way the internet has reacted to that whole thing is, it's sad, really.
It is.
So,
It is. People praising what happened and things like that.
yeah,
That's not. But then again, you know what, Charlie? Or listen to me, Charlie, Sam. I go by Joe Rogan's mantra. The answer to bad speech is more speech.
yeah,
Let these people let them hang themselves. Go ahead, do it.
yeah,
Just make yourself. At least I know where you're coming from. You know what I mean? Um, it's gotten to the. I talk about this all the time. When they shot him down, that was a full on attack on civil discourse.
yeah,
They don't want you to have these discussions. They how do I put this? The people that are behind the strings, they want us fighting with each other. They want us polarized.
yeah.
And I preach all the time, don't do that. Get together on things, you know. Getting back to the pop culture thing, I don't know if anybody noticed this about the latest Mission Impossible movie, but that was the entire message of that movie. Uh, I'm a big Mission Impossible fan. I love spy stuff, and
Me too.
look, did you see the newest Mission Impossible movie, the last one?
I haven't seen it yet, but now that it's available for rent, I'm probably
You
gonna
need to watch it,
rent it.
man, because first of all, if you're a fan of the series, they have callbacks to every movie. Very cool. Little jangling keys, but it's a little long, but you know what? The whole message of the movie is we have to work together. They want us separated. He is trying like hell to get everybody to work together on this thing, and he just
Yeah.
can't do it the whole movie. It's great, dude. It is really fun. I
Well,
enjoyed the hell out of it.
people give Tom Cruise, crap for the whole Scientology thing and whatnot.
Yes, of
And
course.
maybe some of that is deserved, but like I have to tell you that as time goes on, like, and the more I hear like Tom Cruise talk, I'm kind of like, well, he's actually he seems pretty decent. I don't know about the whole thing with his ex-wives or any of that, but he's one of the few who's not doing all this activist stuff and finger wagging at
No,
people are saying
he knows
you
what
know
side his bread's buttered on.
yeah,
He knows what side his bread's buttered on. That's the one guy you're never going to see on X talking smoke. You're never going to see him doing that. He is the
yes,
last movie star. He wants there to be a buffer between him and the rest of the world.
well, him
And it's
and
very simple to do, folks. All you have to do.
yeah,
This is what I tell people all the time. If you don't like what's going on the internet, unplug. It's not that hard. Just put the phone down. It's not
yeah,
that hard.
I've
I highly recommend doing it at least once a week. Really. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, but if you hear him talk, he sounds based as hell unless you bring up psychology. Now that one right there, he has a very, very, very strong stance on psychology and the drugs that are issued out by psychiatrists and stuff like that. He's almost tinfoil hat level when it comes to that. He he thinks, and just check into it, you'll see what I'm talking about. He thinks that psychology is just a bunch of smoke and mirrors. He thinks it's a big con,
wh-
So
which I have to say, like, some of that like, I'm not saying that he's completely right, but he's not completely wrong uh,
no, no.
either.
But it's just if what's wild about it is though, you see him in interviews, you will see his entire demeanor change. He will get
Yeah,
very serious. You know what I mean? It's pretty wild. Everybody's got their chink, in their armor. Everybody's got that button that if you push it, they're gonna go and let you know what they think. And that's
yeah,
his when it comes to that. Yeah.
yeah,
But when it comes to Cruz, yeah, he's wrapped up in Scientology, and we know. Look, I'm not going to trust any religion that's run by a guy that wrote science fiction novels. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do that. But some of these people, LA's a different thing, man. Those guys they're kind of out of a different cloth, you know. And
Yeah.
I don't hate them for it, but I can tell you this about Tom Cruise: the guy knows how to make a movie. He knows how to do that. Every time I don't go see one of his in the theater, I kick myself in the ass for doing it. The last one I didn't go see in the theater was The Edge of Tomorrow. The one that had the title overseas, Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, great movie. And I completely missed the boat on that one. Didn't see it till it came on cable or whatever.
Yeah, I'm the same way with
So I go see everything he makes now because I'm tired of missing it. You know what I mean?
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
the same way with Keanu Reeves. Like, he's another one who, you never hear any, he has no social media presence. You never
The only thing you see on social media is him practicing to play John Wick, right? You see those videos of him nailing it with pistols and rifles and shit,
yeah,
Yeah.
or
That's all you
him,
see out of him. Yep.
or him, he's also like he's also like a real gearhead too, and like he has his
Mhm.
own, motorcycle business too. So, that man, he keeps busy when he's not,
He's getting up there in
doing
age, man.
movie stuff. Yeah,
He's
but I
getting
mean,
up there.
he
Yeah.
and Tom Cruise both look good for,
Oh God.
nearing.
Cruz is, I want to say, 3 years older than I am,
Yeah,
and he looks like a
he's the
million
same age
bucks.
as my dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but kind of back to you and your background. You mentioned that you got into, that you do sketches and that you do some, comic book stuff. So how'd you get into that whole you know,
Well,
avenue?
okay. I've been doing pencil sketch portraits most of my life. Uh, Actually, what happened was when I was about 8 years old, I did a drawing with crayons of a guy at an archaeological dig in uh, National Geographic magazine. Guy had no shirt on. He was bent over, and he was digging. I don't know if you've ever seen these things before, but what they'll do is they'll take wooden 2x4s and they'll section out what they're digging up, and they'll be trying to keep it clean and everything. Anyway, this I drew it with crayons, and this guy, excuse me, my mother saw it and she said, "Oh, I got to get him into art classes." And there was a woman in the back of the neighborhood named Virginia Cook, who is still around. She is one of the founding members of the Bossier Arts Council and just had a gallery named after her. And she was my first art teacher. I would go to school. I mean, I went to school with her son, and I used to go to her house after school from the age of 8 to about 11, I think. And I was painting stuff like Arizona sunsets because I really like, my favorite color is orange. I love the color in your background there. That's my favorite color. Okay,
Oh,
so
cool.
I was doing a lot of Arizona sunsets because they've got shades of yellow and reds and really beautiful oranges and stuff. So I was doing that. Did a lot of. I was a big movie fan, always have been. Uh, Airplanes, Airport 75, love that movie. The whole airport series, those disaster movies, love them. I draw a lot of airplanes, painted a lot of Star Wars stuff. But one day I decided I was going to do a portrait of Christy McNichol. I was in love with this chick. She was on TV at the time. She was on a show called Family. And I did probably the worst portrait I've ever done. It is the most hideous thing I've ever done in my life when it comes to drawing somebody's face. But she saw something in it and she said, "Okay, you're done with me. I'm going to send you down to the Barnwell Arts Center." And I'm up there at the age of 12 with a bunch of 25 and 30-year-olds drawing a homeless guy that my teacher, Susan Nemo, would throw him $20 to sit for us. And we were drawing portraits every Tuesday night. And that's where I really learned the craft of drawing somebody's face. She really, what she taught me was not really how to shade or anything like that. I already knew how to do all that stuff. She taught me the shortcuts on how to do a human's face, and I can do it in under 2 hours now and make it look like a black and white photograph. You know what I mean? That's what I do.
Wow.
And if people if they a lot of work I do, people can't get their family together. So they give me their favorite picture of each person and I make it look like they're sitting all together. You know, that's the beautiful thing about art. You can do anything with it. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's
that's
what I do.
beautiful, man.
Yeah. I've been doing that my whole life. I can't even count how many of these I've done. I've got, let me see if I can pull up a picture of one. I know I can throw them up on my WhatsApp and do it that way. Hang on a second. I'll throw a couple on there. But yeah, I've been doing it since I want to say the last lesson I took was 14, but I've done them my whole life. I charge $75 a face. I don't care how big they are, you know. I just worry about how much I'm making per hour because it takes me about 2 hours to do a face. Doesn't matter what size it is.
Yeah,
And
and
yeah, that's what I do.
and
And
that's
that's the basis of what I do. Everything else, you know, I mean, I've got a 40-hour week job. But yeah, the art all started with the human face, and I really loved movies, and I drew Flash Gordon as a kid. I used to draw Jamie Lee Curtis like it was going out of style. I was a big horror movie fan. It was basically half of the stuff I drew was out of People magazine. You know what I mean? I was a huge fan of movies when I was a kid.
yeah,
Big
yeah.
time.
Well, that's
Mm-hmm.
awesome that you have that passion, especially
Oh
for
yeah, and it's God given,
art.
dude. I mean, really, you know, when I drew that first picture, I was inspired. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I've been shown some shortcuts, but I've always been able to do this. Always been able to do it. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's always the question of, do you think it, that's kind of been, debated among, philosophers for, ever is artistic talent something that you're, born with, or can it be taught, necessarily? And
I mean, yeah, there's some you can teach it, but really what you're teaching is how to refine what you're doing because most people that can do this, they're born with it. They really
right.
are.
I mean, I,
Yeah,
I mean, I
I
would
would
say
say
that,
that myself.
yeah, I mean, I would say the same is true for, me as like a writer and, as like a storyteller. Like,
Mhm.
like I've always been a fairly good, writer and pretty good with words ever since I was, a kid. But, when it comes to like, artistic, like drawing, like I'm lucky if I can make like a good, stick figure or something. Like I
Yeah,
just don't
I
have
hear you.
that.
I hear that one a lot. I do.
Yeah.
Did you want to see some of this stuff, man? I can show it
Yeah,
to you real
absolutely.
quick.
So,
Hang on. Let's see. Screen. We don't need sound for this, so there you go. All right. That guy and Elvis, I've probably drawn more than anybody else. These are bad pictures because this is from years ago, but that's one off the cover of the Sons of Katie Elder that I did.
it,
That's my Marilyn.
oh, wow.
Did that one, what, in 99? Yeah, something like that. That's my Pierce Brosnan. These
Favorite
are, a
James
lot of these
Bond,
are
by the
old
way.
pictures. Yeah, it is my favorite James Bond too, buddy. That's one I did of me and my wife for some for our wedding invitations. We had it engraved on all our gifts and stuff too. Elvis, I've done a lot. That guy, I've done a lot. There's certain people that a lot of people want. Now this one right here, this is just an example of what I do. People just they'll email me the picture, and I'll just sit there and draw it. Put it on my iPad and draw it.
Yeah,
And
so
I think this last one, that's me and my wife when we were much, much younger. So yeah, that's what I do, man.
gorgeous. So
I've been
yeah, I
doing it
mean,
for a long time.
like I have an iPad Pro, but like you're one of those people who actually like draws and uses the Apple Pencil for
Dude,
drawing
I
and
wouldn't even
whatnot.
be doing the comic book. You see the poster back there, the privateer? That's
Yeah,
just a
yeah,
character thing I did. I would never be doing this comic book if it wasn't for the Procreate app on the iPad. Because you saw I don't toot my horn about much, but I can get a pencil and do a black and white picture of your face in 2
yeah.
hours. Okay. But putting ink on it's another thing. I'm scared to death of putting ink on anything. I've only done a
Yeah.
couple of ink drawings my entire life, but with the advent of technology, now I can just hit a back button if I mess it up. So
Yeah.
yeah. So that's what made me decide to go ahead and do the comic book, because I had a tool I could use and not mess up my drawings. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
it's I mean, like, so I have Apple everything.
yeah.
I'm one of those I'm one of those Apple cultists, like, and I don't even need like an Apple Pencil Pro, but I have one, and I have to say, even
Mm-hmm.
like from my from the little doodles that I do, and making annotations on some of my book manuscripts, it's nice to
Mm-hmm.
have. So
Yep.
um
Absolutely. And my daughter turned me on to it. I mean, a lot of people that do comic books and do them digitally now use Photoshop, and I just don't feel like paying $250 a year to use that. So if you've got an iPad, you can use Procreate for nothing, and it's a cheap alternative. Yeah.
Yeah, I took a lot of like graphic design classes in college. So when I was in college, they gave us like the Adobe suite for free. I
Mm-hmm.
use now that I'm out of college and kind of doing my own thing as like a freelancer, that whenever I do like graphics or anything like that, I use a suite of programs by the company Affinity.
Okay.
It's like Photoshop and like Illustrator and all that, but you pay
Mm-hmm.
you pay one time, and
Mm-hmm.
it's yours. So
Yeah.
that's
Well, you
that.
now, do you know about the Procreate app?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. I was wanted to make sure you did, because that one, if you own an iPad, you got it for nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's pretty user friendly. It really is.
yeah. Well, one thing I have done is like I'll take like a lot of portraits. I'll take like a lot of landscape photos on my phone or something of just like various places I've visited, and then what I've done in Procreate is you can take a photo and then like basically turn it into like a sketch, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'll fill that sketch in with colors and whatnot, and I'll kind of do painting that way. So
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
um you know um what do you think of like AI generated imagery when it
I
comes
knew
to
that was going
like?
to come up. Yeah, that's been all the rage for the last. I know we started talking about it about a year ago. The AI art, look, it doesn't hurt me at all. I really think I specialize in one thing and
Yeah,
one thing only, and it's something that people, it's really personalized. They're getting a piece of art from a person that they're standing in front of. And a matter of fact, one thing I'm actually thinking about doing is buying a stick, because now that I've got this streaming set up and everything, I record, put a camera right over. You see that mount right there? That's for a
yeah.
camera. I just don't have it up there right now. And I actually record when I draw to show people, hey, this is not AI. A person actually drew this for you. You know what I mean? I'm
Right.
actually thinking about giving that, sending that to people when I ship it, so they can prove to people, hey, this was not drawn by, some program. An actual living, breathing person did it.
I definitely think that there's something to be said for like actual, art, and and I do think there's like a place for it. My whole thing as like as an indie author is
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my stories are kind of like in the pulp genre and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love pulp art, and kind of seems like your style in particular is
Mm-hmm.
kind of pulpy. But a lot of those guys are either unfortunately, some of them, the ones who are still alive, are like in their 90s, or some of them have
Yeah.
passed
Yeah, we
on.
just lost a big one, man. The guy that was doing the movie posters, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he did
Yeah,
some great.
yeah,
The guy that
him.
did the Indiana Jones posters and stuff, yeah, he was
Yeah.
fantastic. And yeah, that's the kind of stuff I loved as a kid, and that's another reason why I started drawing. Was that. But I view it as a tool. I could understand an author like yourself making a cover with it. I could understand that completely. Now, yes,
Yeah.
is that going to cost somebody a job? Yeah, it is. But it's people are going to tell. They'll be able to tell that an AI did it, though. There's just something about
Yeah.
it. Now it's getting better. It's making leaps and bounds right now. It really
And
is. But there's just something about it that's a little bit off. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, I suppose that that's good. I suppose that's good somewhat that there still is kind of that differentiate differentiation thing. My whole approach is like, you know, if I could pay for a lot of us in the indie author space, right? As a writer, we spend a lot of time, and money writing and doing like edits and whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
so my whole thing is, if I can't afford, if I can't afford to get like a cover artwork, and someone that can, be reasonable, obviously I do want to support them. But,
Yeah.
I don't have like a ton of money. And so, if an author, if a cover artist is going to say, well, I'm going to charge, $300, just for, you know,
Then you're not going to
just,
do it. But
yeah,
if it was a case of, say, I said, well, I'd love the exposure. Let me do that for you.
right.
One hand washing the other. You'd probably do that in 2 seconds, you know,
Yeah. And I
but
have done
mhm,
that for like,
yeah.
you know, one of the things that I kind of do like for a living is like I'm a I'm a copywriter, so like I'll do, like copywriting for businesses, but then I'll also do like edits for other indie authors. And
Hmm.
usually it's like, well, we kind of scratch each other's backs that
Hmm.
way.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect too.
Hmm. But when you're talking about the AI question, how do I feel about it? I tell you, I'm tired of seeing it in journalism. I'm tired of seeing these guys not even editing their stuff before they put it out.
Yeah.
You write, you know what I'm talking about. I'm one of these guys that is really, I really pay attention to grammar when I'm reading, and if it's not grammatically correct, I can tell right away. My kryptonite is reading. I read really slow, and sometimes I'll reread things over and over again. I'm
Yeah.
great at math. I took pre-calculus in high school because I knew I wasn't going to have to pick up a book. It just comes to me naturally. But when it comes to reading, I don't even like subtitles in movies because they go by too fast for me. You know what I mean? But when it comes to this AI stuff, man, it's a good tool, but don't make it your entire thing. That's all I'm
Exactly.
saying. Yeah. Hmm.
That's and see, like that's where like as like a technical writer, like, I use AI as a tool.
Hmm.
As an author, it's helpful to have AI like go in and correct some of my stuff somewhat, and and proofread it to like a certain extent. But then I also have other authors in the community who we proofread each other's
Hmm.
stuff, and
Right.
you know do that. So like it's like anything. I use all these stuff as tools. Now it is a little weird to me when you get when I hear like people talking to AI about like their personal relationships and their problems. It's like, okay, like if you're doing that, then maybe you need to talk to like a shrink or something like
Right.
that. Like,
You might need to, check yourself there. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. I wanted to show you something here. Just the other day, I decided to do this. Just what I've decided to do, and it's kind of helped my subscriber counts, is because I do live stuff on my channel,
Oh,
and
yeah,
you
I
know how
know.
slow
I
it
know.
takes that to speed up, right? For you to gain subscribers, it takes a long time to do it that way.
Yeah.
Evergreen content is the way to go, right? So what I tried to do is, if I'm not doing a show in a day, I will do a short, right? And I decided to take some of the inked pages that I have and make them shorts, right? And for advertising my shows, whatever. So one of the things I did was this. Check this out. I'm gonna put it up here and I'm gonna share it with you. This is the first page inked of the privateer, okay? And it depicts a Coast Guard, the actually specifically the Dolphin, which is based in Florida. I think it's out of Miami. It's a cutter for the Coast Guard, and they you see the final thing down there. The guy's shocked at what he's looking at that's coming their way, right? Well, I decided to go ahead and do an AI video of it, and look what it produced. Check this out. Isn't
Wow.
that neat? Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And the fact that it came out like that first tells me that I did a good job drawing it, because it didn't morph these things into any kind of crazy stuff. But just the fact that that you see what it does. It's telling the story one at a time, and I just thought it was really neat.
Yeah, it's like one of those
What that can
animated
do.
motion
So
comics.
yeah, so just to advertise my stuff, I'll use it. I I
Yeah.
I I animate all my thumbnails now. You know what I mean? Just to put them
Yeah.
in my intro videos and stuff. So yeah.
Well, that's the other thing too with like the AI image generators that I do too is when I'm making thumbnails, for
Mm-hmm.
the video, like I'll have it, generate whatever, topic or, guest I have because, like I'm not someone I don't want to, just because I can do, graphics,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hand make every single thumbnail for
No.
every
Uh-uh.
single video. Some
Dude,
people might, but
my production studio is my phone, buddy. I do most of the shit I
yeah,
do for my shows on my phone.
yep, same for me. And my iPad and my Mac. But people
Mm-hmm.
ask if I have anyone who I've hired, and I'm like, yeah, you're looking at the
Yeah,
at the one employee of the
that's it.
Whitfield
The
report.
Whitfield
I
report has
do,
one employee. He does
yeah,
60 jobs. Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
That's how all of
I'm
us start off. I don't feel bad about it one bit, because I sat there and I saw Jeremy Grimes one time, the Geeks and Gamers Jeremy Grimes,
yeah, yeah,
say he started his channel on his phone. That's all he did, was use his phone to run his channel
yeah.
with. So
Well, it's
we're barking up the right tree, pal. Yep.
yeah, well, what's interesting for me is like I had a YouTube channel like 10 years ago, and then that got banned because of the whole like, COVID thing, and I've
Mm-hmm.
just like kind of restarted this new one
Mm-hmm.
that, because YouTube has laxed, some of their stuff after they got called out by Congress, which that was a
That
long
was a good
time
thing.
coming.
Yeah.
Uh
Long time coming. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm only a little sour that I lost, my previous channel, but you know what? Like, hey, it is what it is. No use crying over spilled milk. So, I'm starting my new one again, but like I've had the show in podcast format for, close to gosh, 17 years at this point. Yeah, no,
Wow.
unfortunately, I'm not, at like Joe Rogan levels of famous, even though some people think I should be at this point. But it's a grind, and I'm, I think of podcasting as an art form, and I still enjoy it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to this day. So,
Yeah. Well,
um,
I was gonna say, do you enjoy what you're doing, Sam?
yeah,
Then you just keep doing it. I mean, who's to
yeah,
tell you you're doing something wrong? You just
ab-
keep doing it.
yeah. I mean, and the other thing too is like, I don't have any corporate overlords telling me, no, you can't cover this topic or you can't, have this guest on or,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So, like one week I'll have, some obscure, author or someone or, the next, show I might have someone like, Kyle Mills, who was a New York Times, bestseller. So,
Yep. Yep.
um, but anyway, you mentioned, your comic book. So, how'd you get started with, that series? That's kind of what you're working on right now.
Well, that right
So,
there, let me tell you, man. Like I said, I love movies my entire life. And where should I start this at? Okay. Did you ever watch the show The West Wing on? I think it was on ABC when it came. It might have been NBC. Might have been NBC. It was on. Did you ever watch that one with Charlie? Or not Charlie Sheen, but Martin Sheen is the president on it.
I I've seen episodes. I haven't seen the entire series, but I have seen, yeah, I've seen episodes.
You should. It's probably the last civil discourse uh, piece of artwork we had as far as Hollywood goes. You should watch that sometime. It's really good. I My wife and I put on stuff that we've watched over and over again just for sitting around playing with our phones at night at the end of a day. Right now we're watching the Walking Dead all the way through for like the third time. But my favorite drama of all time is The West Wing. And they had an episode where the wife of the president, uh, played by Stockard Channing, who I love. If you don't know who that is, if you've ever seen the movie Grease, she was the leader of the Pink Ladies. She was the tough chick, right? Anyway, she plays the wife of the president in the show, and she was being honored by the Daughters of the American Revolution because one of her great, 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 great forefathers was a privateer during the American Revolution. Okay. And
Yeah.
the American Revolution, if I was able, people get asked the question all the time, if you could live in another time period, what would it be? It would be the American Revolution for me. I would love to be there and see what happened and help out with things and stuff. And the privateers, I did some, I didn't know what this was about. They kept giving her shit, calling him a pirate, right? And I didn't really know what it was about, so I did some investigating about it. These guys, what the colonies did, of course, we didn't have a navy back then, right? So what
Yeah.
they did was they issued letters of marque to merchant marines and pirates and privateers to go out and fight for the colonies against these ships on the open seas against the British. And they brought back the letter of marque. What it did was it gave them the right to fight for the colonies, but anything that they got, they could keep whatever they got on the ship once they took it. But if it was something that would help the war effort, whether it be gunpowder, medical supplies, that kind of thing, right? Anything that helped the war effort, they had to bring back to the colonies. That's what this letters of marque said, right? And look it up, man. They supplied a lot of stuff to the colonial army, man. They really did. These guys have been taking shit from the British for years, and they love the fact that they go out and do that. You know what I mean? So it intrigued me. And there was a story back in the old Disney days. I saw it in Wonderful World of Color, I think was the name of it. I don't know if it was Wonderful World of Disney yet. I'm an old guy, man. They used to be on Sunday nights. And oh gosh, I can't remember the actor's name right now. I'd have to look it up. But they had a show called The Scarecrow of Romney Marsh. And it was an intriguing show, 3-episode show. It was actually put out as a movie in Great Britain. Came out in the 60s. I saw it as a young kid. And it was about a guy that donned a scarecrow mask and ran a smuggling operation on the southern coast of England called Romney Marsh, right? And that was heavily influenced into it. Anyway, I wrote a treatment, what they call a treatment. It's a short
Yeah.
summarization of what you would do to start a movie script. And it was just going to be about this guy whose father was taken from him at the age of 12 by an English press gang, You know, these were gangs of guys that would show up, a sergeant, a few soldiers, and they just beat anybody of fighting age within an inch of their life and basically throw them into slavery in the friggin' Royal Navy. You know, that's what these guys did. And he stowed away on a pirate ship and to learn the ways of the sea and try and find his father. That was my story, right? Well, then this video game called DC Universe Online came out, and I was not a big DC fan, okay?
Yeah.
And I started playing it, and I said, you know what? I'm going to make this character that I've been writing little stories about for years into the superhero in my game. And I got in with a bunch of guys in a league called Mythology, and my God, Sam, there for a 5-year period between 2011, first year that game was out, to 2016, we wrote 2 end game quality stories in an open writing thread. Okay. The only rules for it were you could not kill off any characters without telling the guy that owns the character, and you couldn't change the story before what you had written. Right? That was the only rules to it. We wrote some great stories, man. And I said, you know what? When I lost my job at Libby during COVID, you know what happened? They call it the Great Reset.
Yep.
And they did it for a reason. It's because a lot of these companies, they filed for bankruptcy and they reorganized. And I had been working for Libby Glass for 18 years. I was a furnace tech for them, pushing 300 tons of glass a day through 2 furnaces. 2021, January 1st, they shut the doors. And I said, you know what? I got fewer days ahead than I have behind. I'm going to start doing what I always wanted to do. My kids are grown, and that's when I actually started the YouTube channel just to copyright the work I was doing on the book. A cheap way to do that, right? You know what I mean? If anybody steals my idea, go check out the videos from 2022. I've been doing this for a long time. You know what I mean? I got a weekly show on it. I show them what I'm doing on the comic book. So that's why I started the YouTube channel. But I found out, I went on Nick Weiser's channel. I'd been watching Comics Division and his show, and Nick invited me on there the first year I was working on the book. And he said, when it was ready, you just come back and we will push it to the nth, man. And I've been a YouTuber ever since. This community is so much fun. The guys I meet, like you and everybody else, they will help you any way they can. It's awesome. And so that's what happened. I lost my job and everything reset for me too. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start working on my comic book. I decided to make him a comic book character and bring that pirate to the American, from the American. You know when he lands, Sam, in his story? He lands on September 12th of 2001, the day after the towers fall. That's when he gets here. That's it. So I'd have to read you. I'll send you. You know what I'll do? I'll send you a copy of the origin story. It's a little treatment type thing.
And that would be awesome.
Read that and see what it is. But anyway, that's what got me into it, man. I saw an episode of The West Wing that made me do a little research on pirates and privateers during the American Revolution, which I love. I love everything about the American Revolution. I love reading about it. I'm no scholar on it, but I love reading that period. I think it's awesome. So that's how it started.
Yeah, I mean,
this is him. Let's see. My wife makes me. She's testing out merch. Right, he's got his flintlock and he's got his sword. Right, he's got the 13 stars on the back of his jacket. Right. Yep. And then hang on. This is him. This is the guy right here.
Oh wow. I love your, you draw actually in the art style that I love, man. It's like the 60s, like pulp art, like Jack, the 50s and 60s Jack Kirby.
And that was the heyday of comic books. I read my first copy.
Yeah.
I still got a copy up here. I had to rebuy it, but I've still got a copy of the first comic book I ever read. And I'm going to make my book, the trend in comics these days is to make the graphic novel, the big 100-page thing and all this. I want to take people back to what I read as a kid, the 20-page rag with the cliffhanger ending, man. And that's what they're going to get out of my book. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, it's going to cost less. I'm actually thinking about, today's comics. I think half of the price problem is the paper it's on and the slickness of it. And, it's got deep colors and everything. It's really gorgeous. I get that. Why not go back to the newsprint 4-color and make it cost a little less? You know what I mean? I want them to
Yeah.
experience it the way I did as a kid, and that's what I'm going to do with my book. Yeah.
Well, that's what I've done with my book series here, like Shadows of Deception. I'm kind of bringing back the whole pulp novella
Yeah,
thing,
man.
and
Yeah.
kind of setting it. I'm setting the stories in like current day and whatnot, but it's still like the kind of the dime novel.
Right, right. My dad was a big fan. There was two that my father bought, and I'm still a fan of. One of them, you cannot tell me that the guy that invented the Punisher, his first appearance was an Amazing Spider-Man 129, drawn by my favorite comic book artist ever, Ross Andrew. I know a lot of people like different things. That's my guy. Anyway, you can't tell me he's not based on Mac Bolan, the
Yes,
executioner. You
I
cannot tell
was
me that.
I
It's the
was
same
gonna
story.
yeah, I was just gonna say, like, a lot of the guys in kind of my whole circle of indie authors, the men's adventure
Mm-hmm.
fiction community, we've all
Yeah.
talked Mac Bolan, and in fact, like, I actually have Don Pendleton. Yeah, Pendleton wrote the Executioner series.
Mm-hmm.
And
Who was it that
like,
did Destroyer? That was the other one that my dad loved. Was the Destroyer? He loved that one. Do you know? I'll look it up real quick.
yeah,
Let's see.
if my friend and friend of the show Jake Widmer were here, he would know, because even though he's a couple years younger than I am, like, he's into all this stuff. But I've said often on my show, one of the things that a lot of people say is, oh, well, millennials and Gen Z, they don't read books anymore. And
No, that's not true. I
well,
know better than that.
part of the whole thing, though, too, is books now are like, most novels are 506 pages long, and most people, not even just people my age in their 20s and 30s, but most people in general just do not have time to sit down and read an 800-page novel anymore.
Right, right.
Um,
Absolutely.
you
They
know,
have their place. They have their place. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
yeah, they have their place, but a lot of people,
my favorite Stephen King book is probably one of his biggest ones, The Stand. And I think when they put the unedited version of it out, I think it was 750 pages. But when we
right.
first read it, it was like 400, because he wasn't a big name then. They edited it down. But just to answer that question, if anybody's wondering, the author of the Destroyer series, it's two people. It's Warren Murphy and Richard Sapir.
Well,
So,
yeah,
um,
Warren Murphy. Yeah, that's who I was
yeah.
thinking.
But yeah, I think there's a play. Look, my dad had every Executioner book. He had every Destroyer book. And, the smaller page size, there's nothing wrong with that. One of the greatest action movies ever made, Die Hard, is based on a book that's only like, 155 pages long? Something like
Yeah.
that? you know? So,
Eh,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Like, my books are like 250 to 300 pages, long.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I like to say, because when I was first putting out the series, one of the whole things is my friends were like, "Well, I'd love to buy your book, Sam, but I'm not sure I'm gonna have time to read it, because I've got work or school, or some of them even have kids. I just don't have time to do like a 500 page plus book. And I'm like, well, what if it was something that was like 250, and you could finish it in one weekend if you really wanted to, or you could finish it on the bus ride to and from you know your job or whatnot. And we were kind of like, wait, you
Right.
can do that? And I'm like, yeah, our grandparents grew up with these pulp magazines. And
That's it.
the other thing too is like men's magazines like Playboy used to have fiction sections in them
Buddy,
too.
James
And
Bond, the first exposure Americans had to it was short snippets of the novels
yes,
in Playboy magazine. Yeah.
I've brought that up I've actually brought that up multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we
funny.
did read it for the articles occasionally, guys. Really, really did.
Yeah, yeah, occasionally. I've actually had Karina Harney, who was Playmate of the Year on the show before. So,
Wow.
um, yeah, lovely lady. So,
You get Patty McGuire on, even though she's an older lady now. Then, yeah, I'd love to
y-
meet her.
you know,
I was in
I'm
love with her when I was a kid, man.
You know,
Yep.
I don't know if she does press, but I have a few of them who have said that they want to come on the show. So
That's cool, man. That's
a
cool.
lot of them are actually like, more they're more aligned with our way of thinking than you might
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
So,
Look, you know,
um
and since you said our way of thinking, um, look, I want people to just do this for me, okay?
yeah,
Just open your ears when you talk to people, okay? Yeah, we've got
exactly.
a way of thinking, and we're conservative type folks, and we'd rather see good quality stuff instead of quantity garbage, but it's we need to get back to civil discourse, man. We really do.
Well, the
And
whole cancel culture thing is really what drives me crazy. I'll say this, like, I'm more, I'm more conservative. I'm not like a strict religious, conservative. It's really, I've I think it's really hard to like pin people. It's certainly hard to pin me down because it's like, yeah, I'm conservative on some things, and I'm
mhm,
more libertarian on others.
yeah,
As far as the whole, like, gay marriage thing, like, you know, I don't really care what people do in their personal lives as long as they're not
neither do
hurting
I.
others. I do draw the line on, some of this stuff being pushed towards kids. That's kind of where I take a hard line. I
I'm
don't
with you on that one too. Yeah.
I don't necessarily know why, you know, some of this stuff is being pushed in schools, and that's kind of where I draw the line. But if someone wants to be, gay, straight, trans, whatever, and in their own lives, God bless you. You
Mhm.
know, don't, you know,
Don't tread on
don't,
me. It's
yeah,
an
don't,
old saying in the United States. Don't tread on me. Don't make me have to jump through a hoop for you.
yeah.
Look, I was in the club business for 18 years as well, buddy. I did 3 years as a military policeman. You see my hat.
Thank you for your
In
service.
the United States. Oh yeah, family business. I'm glad to do it. Every guy with my name, I'm the third, and every guy with my name was in the army at some point. Papa Joe, my grandfather, senior, was with Patton at the Battle of the Bulge. He's part of that great generation, kept us from speaking German the rest of our lives.
Yeah,
Um, friggin' my dad was drill sergeant at Fort Polk, sending kids to Vietnam in '65 when I was born. I was actually born right here in Louisiana, even though my parents are from Maine and Massachusetts. I say all that to just yeah, you don't have to. put labels on things. I worked in the club business after being in the Army, and I met plenty of homosexual people. I've got homosexual friends, and not one of them like anything that a lot of these radicals are pushing. They would
Yeah.
like to be left alone and live their lives, man. And they think they're just as crazy as we think they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
it's funny. I have a few gay, I have a few gay friends, and they've all, the interesting thing is they've all told me almost universally that they're more afraid to come out as Trump supporters than they were to come out as gay to their families,
right.
or whatnot.
Yep.
Which
Yeah.
you know
And that's silly. That's
yeah
completely silly. You know, I I supported Trump because I didn't have a better alternative. I'll tell you, Sam, the last person I gave money to in a campaign, and I used to do it on a regular basis. I would pick a candidate and push for him uh, during their run. Tulsi Gabbard's the one that I backed the last time she ran for president. Okay,
yeah
I'm a big fan of her.
me too.
And I gave her money, but she unfortunately wouldn't take corporate money. She wanted to go grassroots and all that good stuff, and she ran out of money. But you know, I wasn't about to vote for a person that wasn't vetted. I was damn sure wasn't about to vote for the horse that I back nuked so bad she left the race a week after the debate they were in together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was
Well,
shocking to me. She even became vice president. So I was like,
well,
oh my God, you gotta be kidding me.
yeah. Well, in regards to Tulsi, I remember I first heard her on Joe Rogan,
Mm-hmm.
in 2020 during the whole Democrat primary. And I was still a Trump guy, but I would always get asked, by my, not that they were really friends, but I was in college at the time, and I would
Mm-hmm.
always have conversation with these lefties. Well, Sam, if you had to vote for anyone other than Trump, gun to your head, you know, who would it be? Is there anyone on the Democrat side who you would like? And
Yeah.
at that time,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, honestly, gun to my head, if I had to, like, I might actually vote for Tulsi Gabbard if
Mm-hmm.
you know, if she were running against Trump. I'm not saying I would, but she would be the only one who
Mm-hmm.
I would consider. And they would always say, "Oh no, she's too right wing,"
Mm-hmm.
for and I'm like
Yeah. Her own
and I'm
party
like,
didn't like her. That's why she ended up leaving.
"Yeah."
Yeah. It,
And
yeah.
I'm like, "Why? She's a 90s Democrat." You could even make the argument that Trump himself is a 90s
Yes. Yes.
Democrat.
Yeah.
That's the
Mm-hmm.
weird thing. And it's
Yeah.
like, look, I don't like all these like weirdos, on the far right, like Nick Fuentes and Andrew Tate, either.
No. No.
I think those
Look,
people
man,
are just
I didn't like Rush Limbaugh. I agreed with a lot of what he said, but he was so arrogant. He just rubbed me the wrong way when he spoke, man. I was just like, oh, come
and
on, man, stop it, get off
and
your
see
high horse, you know.
and see that's funny because I grew up as a Rush baby. He's one of the people
Mm-hmm.
who kind of got me into podcasting. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of what he did was satire, but I can see how, you might think he's,
Yeah, like I said, and when it comes to
bombastic.
Trump, I am not. I have got a buddy of mine that is just a Trump maniac. He's always been
Yeah,
just big Trump, 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 Trump. He was the only choice for me this time around because he was the only one that made sense, and he is the one that when he was president before, my wallet was a little bit fatter than it has been
yeah,
in the last few years. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
why
Li-
wouldn't I? You know?
listen
But
and
boy, you
listen.
say that, and certain people will lose it on you. You
Well, and
know, and I'm
listen.
like, so I can understand where your homosexual friends coming from. Yeah, they don't want to be pegged as somebody that's behind that. Yeah.
Right. And listen, like even as a Trump guy, there are still some times where like I'll go on Truth Social
Just
and
shut up,
I'll
man. Just please shut up.
yeah, or just please have a please just have like a please just dial back a
Just a
little
little bit.
bit, right?
But
But it's
that's half his persona is why half the people
yeah.
that love him because he's
Oh
very
yeah,
outspoken, you know.
and I, and I get that, and it's like, well, I'd rather have that than someone who is so smooth, like Obama,
Mhm.
and yet like talks out,
Oh yeah.
um, I mean, it's really it's really unfortunate that we can't go back to the days of someone like Reagan or even JFK, or stuff like that,
Yeah,
but
and that's the thing. The great leaders only come along every other decade, right? They only come along every once in a while. They it was JFK in the 60s, it was Reagan in the 80s. And I would argue we haven't had a great one since Reagan.
well, and
Trump may very well go down as a great one when it's looked at by history.
yeah, well,
He may go down as that.
yeah, well,
But
that's the other thing too. Is like I it's always one of those things where you have to look at in hindsight, right? Like, you
mhm.
know,
Yeah, you can't judge him right now. You can't judge
right.
him now.
Well,
You
like
can't.
you go back to what people were saying out, like like JFK back in back in the '60s. Like, there were people who were against
Well, they thought he
him.
was a communist. Yeah, dude, there was a lot of people that hated him. They couldn't stand him. Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
and on the flip side, same thing with Richard Nixon. I think I think people have kind of unfairly, you know, they look at Richard Nixon and all they think of is Watergate without looking at, what he did as president as a whole. And I think,
Right.
Nixon, at least by my generation, kind of has been vindicated as well. Look at
Hmm.
what he did do. Like even,
Those tapes
you
are
know,
always going to hang around his neck. We're always going to have that.
yeah,
We're always going to have that. Vision of him on the beach looking for microphones. You know what I mean? It's kind of stuck with him. But this is the thing. He did do some good stuff. He got us out of Vietnam.
yeah,
And he did. He opened the door to China and all that good stuff. But he once again, his hubris is what brought him down. And I'll never forget the day that Marine One left the White House with him on it.
yeah.
Um, uh, it my mom was very upset, and it was a bad day for this country, man. It really was. When he left office, when he resigned, it was a bad day. It was a black eye. It was a
I
bad day.
think, yeah, I think though too. You look at some of the presidential scandals that have gone on, since then, on
God,
both sides, and it's like really,
that's
it's
small potatoes, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and
It's crazy.
you know, listen, I don't think any president is perfect. They're
There is,
all
yeah.
you know, humans are not perfect.
No, no. You know what? I used to have, and this is why I keep preaching civil discourse. Okay,
Yeah,
when I was working at the plant, I had a buddy of mine, both of us vets. He was in the Navy. He was African American. I'm Caucasian, right? And he was left leaning. I was conservative. And it was when Trump was running the first time, and he the whole conversation, it wasn't about the person that was up for the Democrats. It was about, it wasn't about Hillary. It was about him. That was our conversation every time. And I was like, but he goes, this guy sounds like, I just, the stuff he says is crazy. I'm like, but I know it sounds really arrogant and everything he says. I said, but look at the ideas he's putting forward. And he goes, I can't. And I said, I know, because I took speech in college,
Yeah.
And the problem with Trump is he distorts his message with the way he delivers it. And
Sure.
it really is a shame. And that was our discussion every time. And we went home. He and I are still friends to this day. He's moved on to Dallas. But you know what? We knew where each other stood at the end of the day. And that's why I say open your ears and talk, man, because, not everybody's perfect. Trump is not perfect. I wish he would shut up half the time and just do the job.
Yeah.
I like what he's doing. Just shut up and do it,
There is also, though, too, and this became really apparent kind of with Trump the first time
Mhm.
too, of the corporate media taking things out of
Oh,
context.
well, yeah, yeah.
Like that's half the problem too, and not just with Trump, but with anyone, because I guarantee you, Joe, you can even take, clips out of me out of context, or like take a certain
Oh,
snip
my
of
audience is
something.
always saying, yeah, that's what she said and everything. Yeah, you could clip any one of us the wrong way. Look, I'm going to tell you a story. I was very short. I was a student at Louisiana State University, Shreveport, LSU Shreveport, taking communications journalism. Okay. I was only in it for like a semester and 2 weeks, but I got great grades the first semester, and I learned some really cool stuff about what you print and what you don't print. This is when papers were still going. We
Uh-huh.
got to see some things, Sam, that you would really find interesting. Like, for instance, they showed us photographs of, I don't know, well, you're too young for it. This was in '87.
Hey,
This guy had, go ahead.
real quick, can we pause for a sec? I need to use the restroom.
Go for it, man. Go for it. Yeah. And I'll
Yeah.
finish the story when you get back. Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. Alrighty,
So
folks, we're back. So sorry, just had to take a quick break there. Anyway, though, you were saying, Joe.
yeah, I'm taking journalism at LSUS, and they had shown us some cool things. Like one of them, it was a story about somebody up in I want to say it was in middle of the country somewhere, like up in Pennsylvania or something. And I don't even know if it was a city councilman or mayor, what his status was, but he was a public figure, and he'd called a press conference, and he blew his own brains out right in front of the press conference. Okay.
Whoa.
And somebody was taking pictures of it with one of those high speed cameras. And you saw him kind of grimacing before the shot, and then just a totally blank, kind of shocked look on his face after he did it. And they were showing us, what what to put out and what not to put out, that kind of thing. What you should do and what you shouldn't do. But one night, me and my buddy are going up the steps of the student center in on the campus there, and there was a group of folks. It was a cameraman and a reporter from a local station, and they waved us over. And I was taking a night course with a buddy of mine that I joined the Army with, and we go up to this woman. She says, "We got some questions to ask you. Would you mind being on camera?" I was like, "No, don't mind." And she said, "How do you feel about President Reagan making cuts to higher education?" Put the microphone in my face, and I said, "Well, my buddy and I, we joined the Army for college money, so aren't really affected by it." And she turned around, looked at her cameraman, went like this, gave the slash throat thing, cut, right?
Yeah.
And I looked at her, and she didn't know what I was a student of or anything. She really hadn't asked anything. And I said, "Wait a minute, you don't want to talk to us anymore?" And she's like, "No, we're done. Thank you." I was like, "Wait a second." My buddy was grabbing me by the arm. I said, "Just a second. I want to talk to her real quick." I said, "I'm studying journalism here. And I was told that I'm supposed to be covering stories from every angle. You're not interested in what I've got to say?" And she actually said this to me. She goes, "No, we're just looking to talk to people that are getting hurt by it." And that was in
Wow.
1987, Sam.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the manipulative media has been around for a long time. Okay.
Yeah.
You have got to, if anybody out there watching this show thinks that you're getting the truth and nothing but the truth out of the media, you are sorely mistaken. You need to do your own research. If they show you a story, that's great. But first of all, in today's climate, they used to call it editorialism. They don't call it that anymore. They call
Yeah.
it news now whenever the talking heads make themselves the story and their opinion. We used to
Yeah.
call that editorializing. And they used to call it that before they even said anything, so you knew it was. Now you don't. Now they just say it right off the top of their head. And so you really got to get the facts, glean the facts out of it, and then go look it up yourself and see what's really going on. That's
Well,
what you
and
got to do. And
and
that's a
that's
shame.
yeah. Oh, yeah, it is a shame, but also, I mean, that's where, like, again, this is the thing I love about podcasting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the idea that little, old me can, talk to people and get their full, story on things. Like I said, I had, Karina Harney on the show, and one of the reasons I did was a few years ago there was a documentary series. I say documentary series in heavy air quotes about, like, all this, quote unquote scandalous stuff that Hugh Hefner had been involved in long after he had already been dead for, like, he passed in 2015. He passed in 2016, so almost, like, you know almost a full decade ago. And this documentary series that came out like 2 or 3 years ago, they interviewed some playmates and women, but it was very selective. And I first found Karina because she had well, I mean, I knew of her, but she had posted something, like, I can't remember, on Instagram or something. I guess they had interviewed her, and she had never had any problems with Hef or anything like that. They had interviewed her for like 3 hours in her home, and they didn't use any of it in the documentary. Um, and so I invited her on the show and said, "Hey, I just want to know your story." So she
Mm-hmm.
came on, and we had a 3 hour conversation. She's a Christian, she's conservative. She has a very interesting background, none
Mm-hmm.
of which they wanted to feature.
No.
She said
Mm-mm.
that Hef wasn't, perfect, but when she knew him, there wasn't anything, that was off. So, stuff like that. And so, like, when the corporate media wants to destroy someone, they'll go ahead and try and to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's narrative news now.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah, it is.
actual news.
Borderline
So
propaganda.
yeah,
Really. I mean, yeah. And gone are the days of Cronkite and just giving you the facts, man. Just the facts, like they used to say on Dragnet. Just the facts, man. No,
well, and
no,
even and
not
even
doing that.
and even Cronkite now. I mean, there has there's stuff that has come out on him that uh, like, the Vietnam war, regardless of how you feel about Vietnam. I don't think it was necessarily justified that we go in there, but at the same time, there was definitely a concerted effort to slander Vietnam vets and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
how Jane Fonda never got, tried for treason,
Oh my God.
or anything like that.
Hanoi Jane. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And
like, I have neighbors who are, Vietnam vets. They're they're up there now, but I mean, they despise her,
Yeah.
you know,
A lot of people do.
and
Yeah.
I mean, and even one of my neighbors said that, Cronkite, like, once, there seems to kind of be a, narrative out there now that he kind of pushed the anti-war, propaganda. That as soon as he kind of came
Mhm.
out against the war, that was when stuff started to change. So I wasn't around then. I don't know, but it's interesting
The
that
guys that were, that's who you got to listen to. They're the ones that know, right?
yeah.
That's who you got to lean on for that.
So
Um, yeah, I've look the media and government involvement together hand in hand has been around for a long time. All you look no further than the McCarthy hearings, the communism thing back then. A lot of people getting blackballed that weren't even communists, just because they wanted them to shut up, that kind of thing.
that
But
uh,
in today's the good thing is there's more people waking up to the fact that they can manipulate the narrative, and
yeah.
more people are turning on guys like you know, guys like Tim Pool, guys like the Quartering, people that are trying to give you information without the slant,
Well,
and it's
even
hard to do. It's hard to
yeah.
do. It really is. Um,
I mean,
I think
even
one of the things I've seen that I really like is what's that app called? Ground News, where they actually show you the slant of all the stories and stuff. Have you seen this
yeah,
thing?
yeah.
Pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I do like that.
Yeah.
But
Well, even guys in, our circle, like, so you mentioned, during the pandemic, you got kind of furloughed, and I
mhm.
I was I
Oh,
was
my career was over. It was not
yeah.
furloughed. Done. They shut the doors. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
was in I was in college, and I we got sent home, and I kind of thankfully, the campus, I went to USF, and thankfully it reopened kind of right before I graduated. But yeah, there was like a chunk where I was doing my degree in technical communications entirely online for a good chunk of that, and that was when I discovered Gary, uh Nerdrotic, and the Critical Drinker. I don't even know how I found them. I think the algorithm puts, YouTube's
Yeah.
algorithm
You
pushes
know what got me
stuff.
into this, Sam? I'll tell you exactly the guy that got me in. It was Jeremy Grimes from Geeks and Gamers. There was a video game that was coming out about that time called Last of Us 2. We all know the story behind it.
Yeah,
We all know how popular the first game was. I love it. It's top 5 video game all time for me.
yeah,
And I don't even play those kind of games. It's just the story was so good.
yeah. I don't.
And I had I had here it is right here. I had bought this game, and every year I bought this game for 5 years running. Spent $100 on it every year. Spent 60 on the game and $40 on the Game Pass because I didn't have a lot of time on my hands and I wanted everything unlocked. So I, get the Game Pass, and it had my two favorite wrestlers, girl and guy, in the promotion on it. I spent $100 on this, buddy, and I've played it for an hour. It was such a trash fire. This game was. It was so bad. And that's when I decided I was never gonna friggin' buy a game brand new again, right? So when I searched for reviews on Last of Us 2, I found Geeks and Gamers and Jeremy Grimes, and he was trashing that game on a daily basis, man. He was blowing it up, and that's when I watched Friday Night Tights the first time. Was following him, knew he was on that show, and I watched it, and I adored that show. I thought it was great, and they said, and this was back then in 2001, that era there, or 21, excuse me.
Yep.
They said, if you've got a voice, both him and Gary would say it during their shows. If you've got a voice and you've got a camera and you've got the means, get on here. You
Yeah.
know, we need your help. It basically is what it sounded like. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, shit. I, let's do this.
I
That's how I started doing it, but that's the guy that inspired me to do it.
yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, I was always interested in politics, like even going back to when I was a kid. I was a bit of a, of an oddball that way, but I kind of
Oh, you
started
were Michael J. Fox in Family Ties, huh?
yeah.
You was worried about the money and where it's going, and yeah,
Yeah, pretty much. And I
got you.
was so, I much like Charlie Kirk, I would listen to Rush as a kid, and I was also big into Dennis Miller. You
Dennis
know,
Miller is one of the most underrated comedians of all time. Does he still have his podcast? Because I used to listen to it.
uh,
It was so funny. My God, he's
unfortunately
great.
he doesn't. But I mean, I listened to his radio show and the podcast too. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, which was great. He just got and I understand where he's coming from. I think kind of like around 2020 he just kind of got like a little depressed, and finally, he was like, I've made enough money. You know, I
I need to
remember
step back from this for my own mental health, is what it sounds like, right?
yeah, well, I
Yeah,
remember, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but he's like, I don't want to be. He's like, I don't want to be Mick Jagger, and doing this when I'm 100 fucking years old.
right. Yeah,
He's like,
but I
I'm
tell you what, still to this day, a lot of guys love Norm Macdonald. I get it, but
me.
Dennis Miller was my Weekend Update guy. I love that guy better than any of the rest of them. Loved him.
Yeah, well,
He was awesome.
most people don't know this, but like Norm got his start writing for Dennis.
That that does not surprise me one bit.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
Um yeah, I mean, even kind of like their comedy, style. It's different, but it's also kind of very similar, kind of, in kind of the content that they, cover.
Dennis's highbrow metaphors cracked me up, dude. They're just too good. I enjoyed the hell out of them. I did.
And what's funny is I've kind of done that too, especially like, you know, my references are a little more modern, but like to the Gen Z, but like to Gen Z, a lot of millennial references that I grew up with, they don't, they don't get them. Like you know, part of my audience now doesn't even like understand the whole concept of like dial-up internet, or or something like that.
Yeah,
Whereas like
yeah. Hmm.
like
Where I
I
get it.
remember those
Yeah.
days.
Right. Hmm.
But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, when I found yeah, I think it was for the Witcher TV show or something like that, which I hadn't been into the Witcher, but like yeah, same thing. It was kind of like yeah, that was kind of when Netflix started to go downhill, you
Hmm.
know. So
I've never been a big Netflix guy. I never have been. My brother loves it because for the documentaries. He loves it for
yeah.
that. But
Well,
I I lean more towards HBO Max and
yeah.
Paramount. You know, they've got more of the stuff I dig. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and then, in regards to the Last of Us, in regards to the Last of Us 2, I remember after I graduated college, I got a PS5 for my graduation present. So I
Mm.
actually foolishly, like, I got the Last of Us 2. It was like $20, and I'm like, how bad can this
I still
really
haven't finished it. I keep trying to kill Abby as I play as her. They won't let me do it.
Yeah,
You
well, we
know?
all we all do we've all tried to do that, and like the thing with it is that game is a part of the problem with that game is it's not only bad, it's like it's a long
Yeah, it is. The first one, what was it? Maybe 15 hours of gameplay to get the whole thing done.
which
It's
is
like 25 for Last of Us. You play the whole game as one character, and then you got to flip and do it the other way.
Yeah, which like which is a cool concept. There were like on the surface, it is a cool concept. I think of like playing as two different characters.
I could see doing that as Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. Okay.
Yeah,
but not as the person that destroyed the dude you wanted to play as the entire game.
Well,
no, I can't do
that.
that.
And I don't know if you've gotten to this part, but they make you. The thing that pisses a lot of people off too is they literally make you kill Joel as whatever her face is too.
That's in the
and
first
like,
20 minutes of the game.
Yeah. And so that was like one of those things where it's like, oh, yeah, this really.
Wait, later on in the game, you actually have to go through that scene again?
Yeah.
As Abby?
Yeah.
So glad I didn't finish that game. Oh my god! So glad
there's
I didn't finish it.
Yeah, and they literally make you. It's a quick time event, but they still make you bash. They actually make you like bash, Joel's brains in. It's
so glad he has nothing to do with that show now. I don't even know if they're going to put on another season of that. I really don't.
Well, they're not, and they were gonna make a Last of Us 3 as far as like a game, but I think that's
he has destroyed his reputation, man. He has. So it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
we're talking about Neil Cuckman, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole entire games industry too is just like, at least the AAA game. I mean, it's abysmal. There are a few. You
got to remember, we're seeing stuff that was in development 5 years ago. So yeah, it's gonna be abysmal for a while.
Yeah,
and they're gonna have a hard time bouncing back. But
I am kind of holding out hope that the new James Bond game is going to be good. Like,
I'm with you, Sam. I'm with you.
Especially since we haven't.
Please.
Especially since we haven't had like a James Bond game, I think, since I was in like a sophomore in high school. That would have been like 2011.
It's been a long time.
Or something.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, they've made some since GoldenEye, the standard that was on the 64. They've made a few. I think the last system they made one for was PS3, I think.
Yeah. Yeah,
so they haven't made one in a long time.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I'd like to see a good one. I would.
Yeah, the last really good Bond game I remember playing was actually when they brought Connery back and made a game out of From Russia with Love on the PS2.
Yeah, I do remember that game coming out. I never played it, but I do remember that one when it came out. Yeah.
Well, that was fun because I was like 12 or so, but that was kind of my generation's first experience to Sean Connery, and and now like I love the movies, and that's kind of what got me into reading the the Bond novels and short stories.
Before Pierce Brosnan, my favorite Bond movie was Thunderball with Sean Connery, because I love the underwater fight scene at the end of it. I thought it was badass.
Yeah.
With the spear guns and everything. Yeah.
It's too bad we never got like a third. I love Pierce Brosnan, but it's too bad we never got at least like a third Timothy Dalton one. So
yeah, that would have been good. You're right. He was a good Bond. I liked the first movie. Didn't like the second movie as much. But the first movie he did, The Living Daylights, that's one of the best Bond movies in my mind. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
and in his case, he was a fan of the series. That guy was one of those dudes like Cavill is. He really wanted to play James Bond, and he'd always wanted to do it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would love it if they casted Henry Cavill as Bond. I know they're not going to.
They're not very good.
because
Yeah.
he's too old. I would love Henry Cavill as, Bond, and then I would love Gina Carano as a Bond girl, but they're probably not going to cast
Carano.
her either.
Nah. She won her bout with Disney, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
You know.
I know you. I know you're a Sydney Sweeney fan, and I have to ask. Do you think she would be? Do you think she would be a good Bond girl?
No, she'd be a good Bond girl. But let me tell you something about Sydney Sweeney. I'm not the big Sydney Sweeney fan on my show. It's Knock. Knock's the one that's a big Sydney Sweeney fan. I heard Jeremy say one day, if you want to get your video seen, put a picture of Sydney Sweeney on there and people will click on it. So it's kind of a running joke. We do a segment now called the Sweeney Spot and everything, man. Yeah. She won me over. I love the kid's attitude. I'm not a fan of blondes. Anybody that knows me, if you're a wrestling fan, AJ Lee is my type of girl. A petite brunette I've been married to 3 of them. Okay. I have my wife says I have a type. All of my wives look the same. They could be sisters. But when it comes to her, she won me over with her attitude. When she wore that sweatshirt that said, "Excuse me for having a great rack," or whatever the hell it was that one time. You remember when she did that? I was like, this kid gets it, man. And the other thing I like about her is she is part of a growing trend in these younger based Hollywood types like a Jenna Ortega, like Sydney Sweeney. Another one's Glenn Powell. These guys are taking the money they make and they're investing it in themselves. If you notice, a lot of the stuff she's in, she produces.
So is
she's the money behind it.
So is I know his dad is. I mean, his dad is one of my all-time favorite actors, but I have to say, I love Scott Eastwood as well as Clinton.
Scott Eastwood was another one. Yeah, he's very good. He should be in a lot more stuff.
Well, I've always said if if my series ever gets adapted into like into an Amazon, into a Paramount show or something like that, I mean I've always written my John Ryder character with Scott Eastwood in mind, and then kind of in my Cold War series where I kind of follow his dad. Clint is kind of my
right.
Mental. I'm a huge Clint Eastwood fan.
Me too. Always have been.
So.
We can. My generation is seeing one hero after another fall by the wayside. It's simply because of age. But at 95, our man Clint keeps marching on, man. It's unreal.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. Is like I've never actually seen a movie that Sydney Sweeney's in. I know that she's, I know that she's attractive. I've never watched Euphoria though, because that just seems like a train wreck.
I watched one episode of it, and it was about teenagers doing drugs, and I was just like, okay, that's not for me.
Well, see, like where I went to high school, like I where I went to high school in Colorado, it was like upper middle class, where a bunch of kids were doing drugs like that. So I'm like, why do I need to watch a show about something that I yeah. Yeah, and it's like
stuff, just the subject matter. Excuse me. Some stuff, the subject matter just turns me off. But when it comes to Sweeney, I like her attitude and how she's going about her career.
Right.
Like when Madam Web came out, she was laughing at herself on Saturday Night Live. She was making jokes about the damn movie being so bad. I mean, it was funny.
Well, she wasn't really been in the movie all that much too, from what I understand.
She wasn't.
It was a big rug pull, basically. That's the other thing, is like most of the movies I watch are like from the 70s, and like stuff that you grew up with.
I grew up with a bunch of that stuff. Yeah, man.
I
If you're a
have
Clint fan, then you've seen the Dirty Harry series. You've
yeah
seen the Any Which Way But Loose movies, and his westerns were dynamite. I mean, it's funny. I watched what was that movie that Tarantino made that was so good a few years back? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I'm sitting
yeah
there looking at DiCaprio's character, and I'm like, my God, this is Clint Eastwood. This is
yeah
Clint Eastwood.
yeah
You know what I mean? He's on a western in black and white, and then I mean, I don't think Clint would have cried about it or anything, not that pitch, but he ends up going and making Italian westerns, right? Spaghetti
yeah
westerns. And then comes back and he meets a really good director at the end of it. And all of a sudden, hey, he's about to be. You knew his career was going to go in the right direction.
yeah
But I tell you what, if you're a big Clint Eastwood fan, though, you've got to watch a lot of the stuff that he directs.
yeah
My favorite movie, of course, he directed a lot of the stuff he was in. My favorite Western of all time is still Outlaw Josie Wales. Nobody can convince me anything's better than
yeah
that. But my favorite movie he ever directed is very inspirational. It's called Invictus. It's got Matt Damon and Morgan Freeman. And it's about how Nelson Mandela used the rugby team
I
of South
saw that in the
Africa to
theater.
bring his country together.
Yeah,
And it is an amazing movie. If you've never seen that movie, I highly recommend it to those people watching. If you don't know the stuff that Clint Eastwood has directed, you need to check it out. It really
I
is good.
would I would say too, one of my all-time favorite movies, um, that still, the ending still gets me choked up to this day is Gran Torino.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
my
Dynamite, and he directed that one too. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
my paternal grandfather, who has since long passed,
Hmm.
is pretty much Clint Eastwood's character in
Right, right. He's
it.
a bigot. We all know it, but underneath that outer, there's a heart of gold, and
Oh
he's really,
yeah,
yeah. We all know that guy. We all know him. Yeah.
the
Hmm.
like my grandfather and I were very close.
Hmm.
I remember he and I actually saw that one in the theater, and I remember
He must have
the
loved it.
I remember particularly the barbershop scene where where Clinton in the barber. My grandfather was he was never one to really. I mean, he would chuckle and whatnot at a few things, but I never heard the man belly laugh like I had heard him, in that
Yeah,
theater when that
yeah.
scene.
I got the pleasure of meeting him, Sam, when I was stationed in San Francisco for 3 months. That was my last place that the Army sent me, and I think they sent me there. Excuse me, because they knew I was getting out, and I had spent a year on Johnson Island in the middle of the Pacific, and Oakland Separation Base is right across the bay from San Francisco, and so they sent me to the Presidio. I think that's why they sent me there, because everybody that gets out of the Pacific Theater goes through Oakland. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And I knew at the time, I don't think he was the mayor of Carmel yet, but um, I knew he had a bar up there. And a couple of the guys that were straight out of basic training, a couple of 18-year-old dudes, and I was 20 at the time. I was the only guy with a car. They had put me with a bunch of guys straight out of basic training there.
Uh-huh.
We were doing military funerals up and down the West Coast every day. Dress blues, 21 gun salute, folding the flag, all that stuff, 2 and 3 times a day. And one weekend, I took a couple of them in the car. We made the hour drive north to Carmel and went to his bar. And sure enough, he was there that night. He bought us around. He found out we were in the military, bought us around. And that guy, that's a big dude. He looks skinny on film, but that
Yeah.
is a large human being.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
But he's
believe
a
my
sweetheart, man.
yeah.
My dad is an autograph collector, and some of the stuff I've got hanging on the walls here were I got from my father, and he has a form letter that he sends out to get these autographs, and it basically tells a little story about himself and says, this is not for resale. I'm a collector. I'd like to, get get your autograph. Blah blah blah. And you really find out what these guys are like by what they send back. He sends them a pre-stamped envelope, so they don't have to spend anything. All they have to do is sign the thing and send it back. Right? Bruce Willis signed it with an auto pen. Okay, that was kind of a bummer when I heard that. I was like, what? Because I'm a big Bruce fan, But
Yeah.
Clint, the 8x10, my dad said Clint, he signed the front of it, and then on the back, he wrote him a letter thanking him for his military service. That's what Clint Eastwood did.
Yeah, Clint is I mean, Clint may be my all-time favorite actor slash director just because from the time I first saw him as a kid, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, that is, you know, I want to be that type. I want to be that
Yeah,
cool when I grow
yeah.
when I grow up, you know?
And it's not hard to be that cool. All you have to do is say what you think and love your country. That's Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
He says what he thinks and he loves his country, man. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. And all of his kids have turned out, well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, at least the ones we know about.
The ones we know
So,
about.
yeah. So, um but yeah. So, well, man, you have a lot of good stuff going too. You've got, I don't know how many shows you're up to.
I just make the channel about what I dig. And me and my brother do the political show. It's not really a political show. It's more like headlines and what we think of them. It was
Yeah.
born of conversations we would have. My brother lives in Dallas, Texas, and he's got a long commute on 635. And anybody that's driven that road knows, you know what my brother calls it? He calls it Fury Road. That's what he calls it. And what he does is he calls his family so he doesn't shoot people on the freeway. He uses that time to call his family, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
that show was born of me, the conversations I had with him when he was trying to reverse traffic in Dallas on the way home. Then I've got, during the football season, we do a pregame show every Sunday from 10 to noon, right before kickoff. And then I've got a pop culture show. That's my favorite show I do every week because I
Yep.
love movies and I love doing that. You've been on that show.
Yep.
And then I do the one for the comic book. I only do it for an hour. I don't want to bore people to death, but I give them an update on what's going on with the comic book, and I do some drawing during that time. I do it right before I go to work on Fridays. And then I keep my hands in video games because I don't have time to play them anymore. So I have a video game show. It's called Video Games, Cocktails, and Fails, Papa Joe Gamer After Dark, right? Where I have a cocktail and play a video game, and I'm playing through Mass Effect right now. I've
Yeah.
never played it before, and it's one of those ones that just I didn't play it when it came out, And,
I'm playing through the first one as well. It's it's kind of
I'm
slow
on the
going.
third one. They've got me playing through the first three. The guys that are on the show with me, and everybody gets to come on. The only show I do by myself. I don't is the one I do with my brother, because it's just me and him. And whenever
Right.
he's not available, like this week, he's not available. So I'll do one called Chilling at the Club. And it's just a chill stream, chat driven. Anybody comes in the chat, says what they want to talk about. And it's kind of like what Charlie does, what's his name? Penguin Zero? Moist Critical? Yeah, I know you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, basically that. I just sit there and search for stuff for people and we talk about it and stuff, Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of just how the Whitfield Report Live is. My co-hosts and I, we just talk about like the news of the week, and headlines, and then if people come into chat, we
Yeah,
interact
I
with
dig that show. I like it
them.
a lot. Yep.
Yeah,
The
we
live show is great.
we appreciate you, and if you ever need a second, if you ever need a second, wheel for any of the shows, I'm always happy to
I
come
used to
on.
do that. Whenever my brother wasn't available, uh, I did a show called Backup Hackers, and I would invite somebody to come on and talk about not the same format as me and my brother did, but we would talk about the big articles of the week. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I might have to bring that back now that you say that, man. That would be fun doing that show with you. It would.
yeah. Well. Feel free. I mean, I feel a little more comfortable now. Now I'm no longer persona non grata on
Right. And I'm so glad to
YouTube.
see that. I let everybody know when you got your channel back. I was like, yes, he's back on. That'll
Yeah,
work.
and unfortunately,
Of
they
course, he's
still.
never gone anywhere, guys. He's always been over on Rumble. That's for sure. So,
Yeah. Unfortunately, they still haven't given me back my old channel, so I had to start a new
mm,
one.
okay.
But you know, uh, YouTube keeps saying that they're going to you know, that they're going to do amnesty, for some channels, which I think is dumb. I shouldn't have to fill out. I shouldn't have to fill out a form. You know, uh,
Yeah,
and
it makes no sense.
honestly, I think the only reason why my channel was even banned was because I think there was like a malicious troll that just kept flagging everything,
Mm.
maliciously, and that happens, too. So,
Yeah, it does.
um, but yeah, I mean, you do a lot for this, streaming community, and a lot for the, just for independent content creators, of all stripes. I really appreciate having you on, man. So,
Oh, no problem, dude. Anytime you want me on, just let me know. And
yeah,
you always get invites if you anytime you want to come. I know Wednesday when I do it on Wednesday, it's a bad time because everybody's eating dinner about that time, or I do it because my wife is going to a meeting that night,
yeah.
and I've got the place to myself, so that's why I
I'll,
do it that time. But
I'll,
yeah,
I'll try,
you're
I'll
gonna
try and
keep getting
pop,
invites, Sam. Maybe you'll
yeah.
show up one of these days.
Yeah, I will definitely pop on. Sometimes, usually, as much as I love Rumble, there are technical, things that, I kind of have to sort out with, to make sure everything works
Hmm.
uh properly over there. So that, that's always fun. But
Hmm.
anyway, well, where can people find all of your stuff?
Okay, you go to joesatmosphere.com, just like it's spelled right there, with an F instead of a PH in atmosphere. I did that on purpose so I could get the .com really easily, and it worked just the way I planned it. Um, you go there, you'll see a little bit of history of my artwork and how I do things. You'll see my streaming schedule on there too. And there's a couple of action buttons you can hit. One of them goes to my Subscribe Star page, where for $1 you can get all the written word on the comic book, all the backstories of the characters, the plot for the first comic books on there, all the sketched pages. $5 for all the artwork. You can, it's a one-time thing, and you can look at all of it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And then over on there's another action button that will take you to the Amazon Kindle page where the teaser book is at. It's called Privateer Issue 0, and all it is the first 5 pages of. You saw one of them earlier in the show.
Yeah.
That I animated, but it's just the first 5 pages is what they call in a comic book platform. They call it the issue 0, and it's just a teaser to get people interested in what I'm doing. It costs $1. Unfortunately, those nasty capitalists over there at Prime and Kindle want $1 for server money or something,
Yeah.
But yeah, spend $1 and support the book, and all of that's on joesatmosphere.com, and my schedule is up on the YouTube page. I made that the first thing you see down there. There's a trailer for the channel. And then, of course, they put the "for you" thing in there, which I think is dumb. But anyway,
Yeah.
the next thing you see there is my live schedule, and I'm on. God, I do about 6 or 7 streams a week on a regular basis. 4 of them
Yeah.
are mine, but I'm on a lot of the people's channels too.
Yeah. Well,
Yep,
we
that's where you
will.
find me. And I'm not just on YouTube. I'm on X. I'm Joe's Atmosphere everywhere. If it's a social media platform, you can find me there under Joe's Atmosphere, for sure.
Yeah, and I'll have all of your stuff linked down in the description on both Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, all that
Got you.
stuff as I do with all the guests, so that people can just link to Joe's stuff directly from the from the episode page.
I appreciate it, man.
So yeah, really enjoy having you on, man, and would love to have you back on anytime you want to come on. And once the book is more developed, ready to push out, would love to have you back on, man.
Don't worry, I'm going to
So
be hitting up all my friends when it's time to start printing this thing. But
yeah,
look, I have never done it before. It's a completely amateur thing. So I was making deadlines for myself. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm 60.
yeah.
I'm doing what I love. I'm going to take my time and do it. Hopefully you guys will appreciate it when you see it. Hopefully.
Well, like that's kind of my approach too with writing the books. Now, like, there are some things where like I'll look at, since I'm self-published, I'll look at like, okay, so when is the best time? When do people usually buy, these thriller books? So, I'll kind of schedule my release dates around there, but generally I'm pretty flexible, with like pre-orders and whatnot. So, and it'll be interesting because one thing I would be curious about too is like, what I publish with the novellas, it's all just like, text, it's all just text based, right? But I'm curious as to like, like what actually like publishing a comic book on Amazon as like an indie guy would be like too. So
Yeah.
so that would
I'm
be
not
interesting.
I'm not selling many of them right now, but I'm not trying to. I'm not pushing it or anything like that. But
Right,
where do I
right.
find your book at, man? Can I get it on Kindle? Can I get it through Amazon Prime? Can I get it through that
Yeah,
place?
all my books are on. I mean, I'll link you, but I mean, all my books are on Amazon Kindle. You can buy paperback editions. I have the first 3 books of the Shadows of Deception saga in hardcover as well. Kind of combined the first 3 novellas into one here as well. So yeah, people can find all my stuff on Amazon as well. And I've even got some of the audiobook. I've even got some of them on Audible too. So
Well, that's
as
kick-ass, man.
Audible. So yeah.
That's cool.
But again, Joe, really appreciate you coming on. So, and folks, we really appreciate you for tuning in, and hope you have a good rest of your Monday, and we'll see you on the Wednesday show. So until then, take care, God bless, God, freedom, legacy in that order, and we'll see you on the next show. Take care, folks.
The right to offend is not some pesky little part of freedom of speech that we have to put up with. It is the heart and soul and lungs of freedom of speech. It is the coursing lifeblood of human progress. It is the instigator of liberty and modernity and science and understanding. What a laughing stock today's student leaders are, that they can so casually dismiss the right to be offensive without realizing that their lovely, enlightened lives are the gift of individuals who gave offense. Offensiveness is not just something we have to begrudgingly accept. Offensiveness is the motor of human progress.
Thank you for watching the Whitfield Report live on the Right to Offend Media Network. Make sure to check out Sam's books on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. You can follow Sam on X at SamW_NGC and the Right to Offend Media Network at RTO Media. Like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. And until next time, God bless, God save this great nation. God, freedom, legacy, in that order.